name's Abby, this is Diogo, our sales manager, and this is Craig, our senior sales ambassador. Today we're going to speak to you about the world of financing vehicles. So I suppose day to day when we're having clients coming in to look at different cars, what's the kind of basic things you go with straight away in terms of details of qualifying a client with regards to their financial status?
Yeah, so the first thing, first and foremost, is that there are some eligibility criteria that these people or our customers need to have to be able to actually apply for finance. So first and foremost, you need to have 3 salaries credited into your account. So that is the minimum basic requirement. You then also need to have a certain amount of salary that then qualifies you for a certain price of vehicle. So for example, if you are earning, let's say, a 10,000 salary, usually a bank will give you around 10 to 15 times that salary. So if you're looking at a 500,000 car, you would need a considerable amount of deposit to get you to a point where you could, let's say, afford that particular vehicle. You also need 20%, is that correct?
Legally you need 20% down. Yeah. However, what I would say is you need 3 months salary if you're employed. If you're self-employed,
that's a good point.
Yeah, it's a different situation. You need to be operating in Dubai for at least 2 years. So that's one thing. If you've just arrived and you've just opened up in Dubai, fortunately, you wouldn't be able to get car finance.
Yeah, for sure.
And then once you've got your basic requirements, what are the common issues that you're facing when the client starts to apply for their loan?
Probably the most common one is high DBR.
What does that stand for?
Debt burden ratio.
Okay.
So that basically means so in the UAE you can have up to 50% of your monthly wage going towards debt or other commitments, i.e. credit cards, loans, and of course car finance. So if you make 10,000, you can only have 5,000 of your wage going towards those debt burdens. So if you have 3,000 of your wage already outgoing, you can only take on an additional 2,000. So you need to bear that in mind as well.
So your car payment technically could only be 2,000.
It can only be 2,000 dirhams a month. So
and this might be a strange question, but obviously with the way that renting places works here versus a mortgage, they can't compute that, right?
No, so renting an apartment does not come into your debt burden, so to speak.
That's good to know.
But however, I will say if it's a case where they're looking maybe a bit further into it, they may start to think, well, actually, you do have outgoings here in terms of your rent. So it might.
Like if you'd paid twice in the last 6 months a certain amount, they might predict you're going to pay that amount again towards rent.
They might, yeah. So they might take it into consideration. Now, it's not common, but it can happen.
And then what frequently asked questions are you having from clients?
Yeah, so the most frequently asked question that we get is probably around which banks we use. So we here at Approved actually have an array of choice. So we deal with every bank in the UAE, which actually allows you as a customer to have the best opportunity to get an approval in place. So some banks might have different lending criteria. So some banks will potentially provide you with a higher chance of getting an approval than some others. But we're always very confident being able to get you an approval, subject to, of course, all the criteria being ticked, like Craig was mentioning earlier on.
Another most commonly asked question about the banks is interest rate.
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
very
What is the interest rate? Generally, the interest rate on a used car is going to be around the 3.5%. They will make exceptions for certain customers. It tends to be the better the relationship you have with the bank, the more chance you have of getting a lower interest rate. And on a new car, it differs slightly as well. It tends to be ever so slightly less.
Yeah, and just another kind of not so much frequently asked question, but we certainly get this a lot, is some cars might not be available for a certain period of a loan, for example. So although we don't, depending on the age of the vehicle, so your car has to be at the end of the tenure, so at the end of the agreement, your car has to be maximum 10 years old. Okay, so for example, if at the moment you were looking to buy one of our 6-year-old vehicles, Abby, you would generally, unless again an exception can be opened, you would only be able to finance over 4 years. Okay, so worth mentioning, because of course that might be able to, as Craig was saying earlier on, that might drive your payment up a little bit, and it might take it outside your parameters for being able to get an approval in place. But of course, our sales guys are always in hand. They will qualify you as a customer. They'll ask you the questions around what your monthly payment, what you're looking to achieve as a monthly payment, how much you're looking to finance, etc. And then, for example, Craig would be able to tell you whether that's something that's likely to be approved or something that's not likely to be approved, of course.
So, aside from the age of the car, do you always get offered up to 60 months term?
Again, just
or
depending.
does it, apart from the car though, it's
Just the
depend
age.
on
Just the age.
so nothing to do with the criteria of the client and the bank necessarily?
No, it's just really on the age.
Yeah.
As long as the car's under 10 years old by the end of the agreement, that's fine.
Ah, nice.
Another one that we get asked all the time when we refer to finance or monthly payments, for example, on our website, you can generally find an example of how much this will cost you per month. This is all through the bank. There's no such thing as in-house finance with us. I hear rumours perhaps that it's possible with checks. It's not something I know, it's not something that the agencies do, but apparently some people may do that. It's certainly not something that
And I think if they do, it's definitely nothing like official.
No, correct.
So there's a risk on both sides for the business and whoever is entering that kind of agreement as well, you know?
Yeah. So when we refer to finance, it's purely through the bank.
Yeah, very good point. Very good point.
So us as Approved as a company, how do we go above and beyond to assist the client throughout this process?
Yeah, so the sales team actually here, we try and help the customer as much as possible, and to do that the guys actually follow a process with the customer, isn't that right?
Yeah, so technically, finance is the customer's responsibility. So ultimately it's a transaction between the customer and the bank. We just happen to have the product that's involved in that. So we'll do everything we can to assist that process. We will put you directly in touch with the banker who we've worked on many occasions. He will then request all the documentation that he needs via email, and we will follow up both with the customer and with the banker to ensure that process runs smoothly. And generally we can get it done quicker than most. If you go down the route of going with your own personal banker, it can start to take longer. So we would always recommend a banker that does purely car loans.
And just to touch on that and how we go above and beyond, we always try and get things sorted in the quickest timely manner, essentially, the quickest time possible, so that you as a customer can obviously get the car as quickly as possible, because when you come and buy the car you want to ask quickly as possible. The guys here, as soon as you leave, they will have a quotation sent to the banker, they will have everything sorted to them, so really from the customer perspective, the only thing that you have to do really is send your documentation to the banker. We've taken care of everything else, which in essence really helps kind of expedite the process and make sure that we can deliver that car to you as quickly as possible.
Sounds like it's more just about supporting and then keeping it transparent
Exactly
between both sides, because ultimately it benefits everybody involved, and ultimately the client is driving the car out the door, hopefully not long after.
100%.
Now there will be cases where some people take longer than others. Again, it's all to do with your relationship with the bank, but we will try our best.
And to sum things up, I have a question that both of you need to answer one after the other. What's your personal advice when it comes to any client or somebody looking for finance for a car in the UAE?
Yeah, I guess my personal advice with customers from personal experience is just to when you come into the showroom, have a fairly clear idea, now that we've talked to you about what the criteria is, of what you're coming to look at and whether it's something that's within your budget as such, because of course what you don't want to do, and certainly from our point of view, is we don't want to disappoint you as a customer. So we don't want you coming in, for example, let's, for talk's sake just now, Abby, having a look at a car that's 500,000 for example, but one, you don't have a 20% deposit, for example, which is obviously not possible, but then for example where your EMIs are going to be too high, because all that's going to happen is we're going to build that desire in the vehicle for you as a customer.
Yes.
And then what's going to end up happening is 5, 6, 7 days later down the line, we're going to have to give you the bad news from the back. So we just want to try and manage the expectations from you as a customer, so that we can then get you into the car. And if your budget is a certain price point and we can't get that, then at least we can try and find you a car that is within that price point, so that we're not then disappointing you, or the bank is then disappointing you, of course.
And for me, I'd probably say Each case is different, so a bit of patience always helps. We just have to take it as it comes, really.
Yeah, for sure.
So there you have it. Please feel free to contact us ever if you're just looking for advice or if you're just at the very start of your journey, so we can help you kind of qualify your situation. And don't forget, you can call 800 Approved for that. So please remember to like, share and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye.